Hey, shalom, brothers and sisters. Welcome back. I thank you again for joining me today. Today I want to talk about the Protestant reformer, Martin Luther. Talk about a little bit about his history and everything. I'm going to do that from it's called Religion, a reference first book by Gilda Berger, and just want to give you a little heads up on him and who he was, what he was like, what he stood for, things like that. And actually, I got a couple of his books right here. First one is right here. If you could read that, it's an old book. It's an old book. But anyways, second one right here. It's a very interesting book. It's Martin Luther's on the Jews. On the Jews and their lies. And there's a history about this. This is like you could say it's almost an anti-Semitic book almost. I mean, because, he bashes the Jewish people. And, there was one rumor and some scholars believe that, first he was friends with the Jewish people, but then he tried to have them converted, and they would have no part of it. So he got mad at him and started saying lies about him, digging up dirt on him, doing whatever, but slander him and smashing him, whatever, But yeah, I got this book. I can't remember where I got it from, but yeah, he's really, by this book, he was no fan of the Jewish people. But anyways, that's just another story in itself. But anyways, let's dive right into it. Martin Luther. Born 1483, passed away in 1546. German-born leader of the Protestant Reformation. Luther was ordained a priest of the Roman Catholic Church in 1507. He taught at the university and preached in the Castle Church in Wittenberg. Luther was greatly troubled by the Catholic Church's sale on indulgences. Their selling of indulgence allowed people to buy forgiveness of their sins, believe it or not. Priests and them were actually saying, give us whatever we want, and we're going to give you forgiveness of sin. You go automatically to heaven no matter what you do. In 1517, Luther made public his objections to indulgences and other church abuses by nailing a list of these abuses on the door of the Castle Church. By this protest, which became known as the 95 Thesis, Luther hoped to encourage debate within the church. He did not intend to quarrel with the Pope or revolt against the church. Nevertheless, the 95 Thesis created a storm of reaction and marked the beginning of the Protestant Reformation. Luther departed from Roman Catholicism even further when in 1519, he publicly denied the supreme power of the Pope. In response, the Pope excommunicated him, banned him from the church. This caused Luther to burn the papal bull, which is a decree of excommunication. The Pope then ordered Luther to appear before the Diet of Worms, a gathering of German priests and nobles. This group demanded that Luther retract his statements. When he refused, he was declared a heretic, a non-believer. On the way home from the city of Worms, a band of masked men seized Luther. They took him to the castle of Wartburg for his own safety. During the 8 months that he was there, Luther began to translate the New Testament from the original Greek into German. His work during the period led to the organization of a new church. Luther returned to Wittenberg in March 1522. In the years following, there were many disagreements among the reformers on what the exact beliefs of the new church should be. Luther was unbending in his views. Some of his followers left to organize churches that were closer to their own ideas. Get that? Their own ideas. Luther did not insist on new forms of worship for his church. He was mainly concerned about the individual's faith in God, which he believed was the only way to achieve salvation. but many changes did occur. Services were held in the language spoken by the people instead of Latin, which continued to be used in the Roman Catholic Mass. Also, the congregation played a more important role in the services, including the singing of hymns. Luther continued to teach, preach, and write until the end of his life. He was buried in the church at Wittenberg, where he had nailed his 95 Thesis. Now the Lutherans churches here states members of the Lutheran Church, the oldest denomination of the Protestant faith. Lutherans believe in the principles of Martin Luther, one of the leaders of the Protestant Reformation. A basic belief of Lutherans is that the guide to salvation is found in the Christian Bible. Lutherans hold that individuals can reach God through his or her faith alone. Lutherans say also that the church's rites and rituals have meaning only as aids to faith. The Lutheran doctrine is set out in the Augsburg Confession, which was written by Luther and others in 1530. The Lutheran Church is the largest of the Protestant churches. There are roughly way over 100 million Lutherans. About 1 out of every 3 Protestant worldwide is a Lutheran. More than 8 million Lutherans live in the United States. About 40 million live in Germany. Lutheranism is the official religion of Denmark, Iceland, Norway, Sweden, and Finland. Countries where these are some 25 million members, or more than that by now. This book's old, but yeah, that was the Lutherans. But now get into the Protestants. I just want to read this to you too. The various Christian churches, other than Roman Catholic or Eastern Orthodox, that grew from the Protestant Reformation of the 16th century. Protestants belong to hundreds of different churches. Each one has somewhat different beliefs and forms of worship. Most share a number of common doctrines. Protestants do not accept the authority of the Pope, but consider the Bible to be the first spiritual authority. Every individual is responsible directly to God and not to the church, and all members of the congregation take part in ritual worship. About 500 million people belong to Protestant churches worldwide. Most live in Europe and North America. So it gives you just a little thing. We already know what Protestantism is, and here's what it says about Reformation. It's a religious movement of the 16th century that led to a schism or split in the Christian church and to the establishment of Protestantism. The Reformation sprang from a number of different causes. The Renaissance brought with it growth and learning, a new belief in the value of dignity of the individual, and a general question of church authority. Powerful monarchs took control of the vast lands as the old feudal systems broke down. The abuses of corruption of much of the leadership of the Roman Catholic Church was becoming intolerable to many. Martin Luther, a German Catholic monk, was one of the leading figures of the Reformation. In 1517, he nailed his thesis to the castle at Wittenberg. It listed some of the abuses found in the church. Luther hoped by this to stir debate within the church. He expected the Pope to bring about reform once he had been made aware of the problems. But his criticisms led to different strong anti-church feelings and to the formation of a new religious body, the Lutheran Church. The Lutheran group became the first Protestant denomination. The Lutherans lived in Germany, but Switzerland, France, Great Britain, and Scandinavia had similar movements. Protestant churches formed in all of these areas during the 16th century. So that was kind of like a big explosion, away from Catholicism. And, Martin Luther was just one of quite a few men that branched out, and then they still couldn't agree. And they all say, well, most of them, whatever they say, the Bible is our number one authority, but in order for it to be a number one authority, you got to read it, study it, and understand it. You got to have your nose on the pages every day or every time you, as much as you can. But that's just about Martin Luther, the Reformation, and everything I just wanted to share with you. And I thank you again for joining me. And, if you want to look him up or, video, a documentary about him, feel free to. But anyways, that's all I want to say right now. Thank you again for joining me. Till we meet again, peace out and shalom.